Mike Hosking Breakfast, 6 to 9 weekdays on Newstalk ZB.
Liam Lawson's with us. Good to see you.
Thank you very much. Nice to be here.
Have you had a good summer?
It's been short compared to. I mean, I love coming home. So, and I think a very big part of my season, and a very important part of it, is to come home and sort of take my mind off racing for as long as I can and sort of reset. But it has been a shortened time this time, especially with MIQ. It took me quite a while to get a spot and come back. But no, I've loved being home, and we've definitely filled up the time with things to do.
At this time next year, you will be able to come home with no MIQ.
Yeah, I hope so.
You'll just be able to come home like you used to.
Yeah, I know. That's something that's even before COVID and MIQ was a thing. It was something that was already obviously a big journey to come back, and it was always a bit of a dread when I had to get on the plane and do 24 hours, and then doing 2 weeks in a hotel came in, and now I'd go back to that any day.
This Roden car, for people who don't understand it, just explain what it is. Because you were testing yesterday. Were you testing yesterday in Christchurch?
Yeah.
It's a beautiful facility they've got there, apart from anything else, isn't it?
Yeah, it's every time I go there, there's either a new building or some new machinery there, and it's very, very cool what David and Roden cars are doing down there. But the car is basically sort of based off a 2012 sort of era Formula One car with the drop down front wing and the thinner rear wing, and it's basically got the Screamer, the V8 Cosworth in it. So it sounds like the older Formula One cars, which is really, really cool, and it's a lot lighter as well than the newer ones. So to drive, it's really, really nice. And it's it was nice. We got to showcase the car in Highlands and Ruapuna in New Zealand, and to finally sort of show the public was pretty cool.
And you'll be able to buy these cars?
Yeah.
Who would buy them, and what would you do with it?
Somebody who wants a seriously cool track car to take to the track and to even take to Roden cars. You can use the facilities there if you own the car. So yeah, I mean, somebody who wants the quickest track car, because at the end of the day, I don't think there's anything that's going to be faster.
Do you have to be good to drive it?
I think you have to have a level of you have to know how to drive like a quick car. I think it would have been good to do sort of some track driving, and I think the idea of when you buy this car is that you'll go through a bit of a, if you haven't done, at least you can go through a structure of learning how to drive some quicker cars. But at the end of the day, it's not as hard as people would think. I would say it's quite easy to build up to. So a lot of race cars like the Formula 2 car and F3, stuff like that, when you drive out of the box on cold tires, cold brakes, it's quite difficult just to get around the track. You're going to try to get temperature in, and but with this car, it's not like that. So you run tire blankets as well. So basically, you drive out and the tires are already up to temperature, and it's quite an easy car to build up to the limit. The limit's not not a really small one either. It's not like you make a mistake and it's game over. It's quite easy to sort of control the car as well.
He strikes me as a mad genius. Is he a mad genius?
To do what he's doing, I think I would say so. Yeah.
Yeah, because he's a big backer of yours, apart from anything else, and we know that Formula 1, Formula 2 is all about money at the end of the day, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And without Roden cars, I wouldn't be racing in F2.
So the new team, what do they offer you?
Different philosophy. Every team has their own philosophy in racing, and I think I'm glad to have done I've done 2 seasons with High Tech, obviously one in Formula 2, and I think I'm now able to sort of take what I've learned there into this new team and learn as much as I can from Carl. And I think with the postseason test we did in Abu Dhabi, they were really strong, and we made big steps over the 3 days, which I think was the biggest taking point from it. How
much variation is there in cars and teams in F2? Do you go in F1? You go to Mercedes. If you're a Mercedes, you would expect to be at the front of the podium every week. Same in F2 or not?
I think, without sounding like a guy that wants to make excuses, obviously, as you look at Formula 1, you understand that every team is its own either manufacturer or, they've got their own car. So people understand that there's differences. And in Formula 2, everyone's driving the same car. So it's definitely more similar, but there are quite big differences. And I was very surprised just doing the test that I did with Carl and how different the car felt. I drove the week before in my car in High Tech. And it was crazy how different the car felt to drive.
Do you have an idea of how well you will do this year?
The thing is, for going into a second year is always an advantage, and I've only done it once in the past, and that was going back to FIA F3, and that was I remember doing the preseason test and just already without doing anything was a step ahead of where I was. So I think it's definitely a positive thing having done a year. the calendar change is going to, I think, help us as well, having more races and more demand on the feature race rather than the reverse grid races. Right. So I think we're in a
2
good
races
position.
in a weekend, not 3?
2, exactly.
More meetings.
Yeah, 14 rounds, not 8.
Good, because it must be a hell of a frustration waiting between meetings.
It's horrible. And then when you get to the track, as we were talking about before, when you haven't been in a car for a while, no matter how much training you do, it's always hard the first time you get in. So if you're driving every single weekend, it's great. But on top of that, we only have one 45-minute practice session on a tyre that lasts 3 laps, maybe, to learn everything you can before going straight into qualifying. So trying to do all that in a couple of laps is quite difficult when you haven't been in the car for a couple of months.
Presumably, you're wanting to aim to F1. I mean, this is every season you set out, you want to win, you want to do well, you want to get the attention of somebody who's going to offer you the golden seat.
Yeah, that's the dream. That's what I've been striving for since I was a kid. So obviously, every year we take a step. This year, hopefully to have some more involvement in the F1 team as well is going to be great. To do some more simulator work as well and just have a bit of involvement, because at the end of the day, without going and actually learning with the team, it's impossible to know and to sort of be able to learn how much, because it's so advanced from anything else.
Come back and talk more about F1 in just a moment. Liam Lawson with us, 13 past 8. Newstalk ZB, 16 minutes past 8. Guest is Liam Lawson, who heads back to F2 for the year. When you talk about F1 and the testing you did, the leap between F2 and F1 is what? Is it gargantuan? Is it a small step?
It's the biggest step. Yeah, it honestly doesn't even feel like the same sport with what you've been used to. You step from F4 to F3 to F2, and the car always gets faster. The teams are slightly more knowledgeable. They go into more data and stuff. But then you go to F1, and it's insane how big the jump is. Not just with the car, because the car is obviously ridiculously fast, but with the team, the amount of people involved, the amount of the technology, how advanced it is, and then the amount of work that goes on behind the scenes as well. Because on a race weekend, there's so many people back at the factory that are still working from Wednesday to Sunday, basically trying to give the team data and stuff like that while they're on track.
Are people nice? And the reason I asked that is we had Marcus Armstrong in the other day, and he's gunning for F1 as well. In fact, as he left the studio, he says, "I'll talk to you when I'm in F1." And I thought that's a great attitude to have. But you're in competition with him, and he's in competition with you. Is everyone nice?
When you have... One thing I'd say that's quite cool is in F2, you have 20-odd young drivers, similar age to me, if not a little bit older, but very, very similar age, and all doing the same thing. So regardless what country you're from, we've all left school, we've all basically dedicated everything to trying to achieve this one goal. So obviously on track, it's very intense. Everyone's got a massive ego and trying to prove that they're the next Formula 1 driver. But off track and when you're back at home and stuff like that, it's very relatable with these guys, because we've all done the same thing, and there's not many people, I would say, in the world that are obviously doing this.
Yeah. The guy who's been promoted, and I've forgotten his name, he's been promoted this season from F2 to F1. Give me the name.
Guan Yu Zhou.
That's him.
Yep.
Do you know him well? Likeable guy. Do you feel good for him and you slap him on the back and go, "Good on you, mate, well done"? Or do you go, "You bastard, I could have been there"?
I think there's definitely a side of jealousy, and obviously because all of us are trying to reach it, but he's a really nice guy, and he's been in Formula 2 a couple of years now, so I think for him it was the right time to step up, but it's so hard to make that step, and obviously you've got to be in the right program, and even if you do everything right, at the end of the day there still has to be a seat available, so it's a very rare opportunity.
What's your observation psychologically on what makes a great driver? Because you look at, say, Verstappen at the end of last year, he seems robotic to me. It's not an insult, it's just that's his personality. Does that work?
I think it's difficult to say, because every driver has their own sort of way about going about things. And for Max, it's been very cutthroat for him from when he was a young age. He's sort of been almost, I would say, machined into being this driver, which has worked out for him. But I would say you definitely have to have an ego as such. As long as I don't like it when people present it around to everybody and talk about how good they are, but to have that within yourself and to sort of have self-belief, because everybody, including myself, believes that they're the best driver and that they are going to be Formula 1 world champion. And without that, I don't think it's possible to reach it.
Because what I've found so absorbing as I've got into F1 and F2 and all of that in the last couple of years is the understanding of just how you're all brilliant, essentially, but the difference between you is infinitesimally small. It's tenths of a second, hundredths of a second per lap. And that's the difference between winning and losing, success and failure, and your dreams or no dreams at all. And that must be an extraordinary thing to have to deal with.
Yeah, I think that's why it is crazy at the end of the day, because you have a minute 40 odd lap time that everyone's going around, and so finish a lap within half a tenth of somebody. And basically what we're looking at in data, we're splitting the track up into individual corners and then separating that corner up into 3 or 4 bits of the corner, basically entry, middle of the corner, exit of the corner, and basically trying to find the tiniest bit of lap time in each corner and seeing the difference in driving. It's crazy. It's basically pushing it to the absolute limit.
You going to do DTM this year?
No, DTM is basically, for me, it's just Formula 2 this year and focusing on that, which I think is a good thing.
Yeah,
I'm very glad to have done DTM last year, and honestly, I learnt a lot from doing it. Not so much from the driving the car side, but everything else, working with the manufacturer and things like that. But just F2 this year.
And because there are more races, and you want to focus on that. Is it good that Hamilton's back?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's really good, and it's nice. It's going to be nice to have that fight. Obviously, he's got George alongside him as well, so I think that's going to be a great sort of.
Because I was sort of worried because Tom Brady retired, and he was going to play until he was 45, and he's only 44, and I thought, oh yeah, fair enough. So Hamilton's clearly morose over what happened, wanders off to wherever he wandered off to, and you think maybe he doesn't need to race. So you got to want to race, don't you? You got to have the killer instinct to want to come back and prove something.
You have to race in Formula One, and so to succeed in it. I think a good person to look at was Rosberg when he finally beat Lewis in that 2016 championship, and he said it was the ultimate life dedication to do that. So it's and every driver out there is basically putting everything into this and dedicating everything, and then the entire team as well. And that was something that was cool. Obviously, Red Bull winning last year was amazing to see, but I was sort of getting involved in the last sort of half of the year and seeing how much energy and time and every single person in that factory wanted to win more than anything. That all of them dedicated everything to it. So
amazing.
It was very cool to see that it paid off.
It was one of the great highlights of the sports year. Apart from you can't write that stuff.
I know the race itself was unbelievable as well. I think obviously everyone has their own opinion on it, but I'm a Red Bull guy, so I was stoked. But it was very cool.
Good on you. Well, go well this year. We'll talk, throughout the year, hopefully, and hope everything goes fantastically for you at your new team, and good luck.
Thank you very much.
And by the way, I understand it's your birthday tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow. Yeah, it is.
It is tomorrow. You sure? Well, you don't have to. So 20 tomorrow.
Yeah, 20 tomorrow.
Good
finally.
on you. When do you leave the country, by the way?
Next week, I would say. Looking at next week.
Good stuff.
So yeah,
right,
back
go
into
well.
things.
Good
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Liam Lawson.
The Mike Hosking Breakfast, 6 to 9 weekdays on Newstalk ZB.